Hey, what's up, everyone? Good. It's Sam from T&M here, back to do another vinyl tap video. Last one of these was pretty fun to do, just kind of diving back through my record collection and talking about some of the cool stuff. That was a lot focused on like more recent records. I figured this one I might delve back into some of the sort of earlier records I got and what kind of got me into record collecting. But I figured to start with, we'll just kind of go through a couple of recent purchases of mine, stuff that I bought. Like in the last couple over the last sort of couple of weeks since I last did one of these, or month, however long it was. But yeah, we're starting with Erebos by Venom Prison. We raved about this on the podcast with good reason. It is one of the standout releases of the year, particularly in heavy music. I like death metal, but I'm not someone who goes crazy about it. But this album, I mean, is it entirely a death metal album? I think this is obviously the record where Venom Prison have started to really branch out and broaden their sounds while still just being heavy as balls. And like the steps they've taken on this record, now that I've lived with it even longer than when we had it for the review, and I just keep going back to it, it's so impressive. Had to get it on vinyl obviously because, I mean, shout out the Venom Prison artwork. I've got all their records on vinyl because I love their artwork, and just one of those things you've got to get. This one is one of the coolest. Unfortunately, the vinyl, I didn't get one of the cool like glow in the dark pressings or anything. It's just the black one, but you know, whatever. It's a slamming album. Like for me, it is the steps they have taken to kind of expand their sound. The songs like Pain of Oasis and like the melody, Larissa singing, the kind of like different vocal approaches, all of that sort of stuff just comes together to make this what is easily Venom Prison's best, sort of most accomplished work yet. And like I say, it's now my loved one when we first got it for the review. Listening to it more since it's come out and just sort of going back to it, it's just growing on me more and more. And I'm so excited to see what this is going to be like live when I eventually get the chance to see them, which I think will be Outbreak Festival for me, will be my first sort of opportunity to see them. But I will be there for that, and just like these songs, how they like, especially with like some of the more ambitious stuff. I want to see how they're going to kind of transfer that into a live set. The obviously all the electronics and all that sort of stuff going on there, but it's all there on the record. It is so cool. Like I'm assuming everyone like who's going to be watching this will have listened to this album at least once, and will have like some vibe on it. But like it's like if this isn't in my top 20 by the end of the year, then this year will have been ridiculous. Like it's already been a real, like, particularly on the sort of like challenging, interesting, heavy side, that's still like not so out there that it is impenetrable. It's been a really strong start, and this is one of the standout records for it. Venom Prison, Erebos. Similar one. It was an album from last year, but I finally, like, when I do my obligatory trip into like London to go cinema, I'll always swing by FOP, and I saw this there, which is SeeYouSpaceCowboy's album from last year, The Romance of Affliction. I like, again, this is one that we were well into on the podcast. It is throwback, like early noughties inspired Poison the Well worshipping metalcore with a dose of post-hardcore. I've long established my love for this kind of music. Anything that's got sort of panic chords and those like breakdowns and the vocals and all that. And SeeYouSpaceCowboy have been one of the most fun kind of like bands doing that. And this album, as we said, it kind of like meshes together that weird kind of sassy, wild, unhinged stuff from the early EPs and the more sort of emotionally charged metal, like just straight up like Killswitch Engage worshipping metalcore of the debut album. And this is like, I think as a result, it's their most accomplished work because it nails everything that I love about SeeYouSpaceCowboy. It's also this is a nice, cool, like bright orange pressing that I was like, oh, that is pretty. I do like a nice colourful pressing, and it goes nice with the artwork. But yeah, this album, like, this is one that I think when we reviewed it, I was like, yeah, I really like this, but I wasn't like raving about it. But it is another one that has just grown on me immensely in the sort of the months since release and since having it, and just going back to it and just having an awesome time. Like, I think there's been a lot of this kind of metalcore, this sort of throwback revivalist sort of noughties metalcore. So it's getting harder to stand out. Even like bands like Vane, who have really kind of started to draw on that so it's going to get even tougher for bands to stand up. But I think SeeYouSpaceCowboy have that extra like X factor that is just going to make them stick out and be one of the most like promising bands for that scene. Another one that Outbreak Festival, like, God, I'm excited for Outbreak Festival because I'm going to get a chance to see a lot of these bands who I've not had the chance to see either in a couple of years because of COVID or not at all yet. So that'll be one there. But yeah, this is just a great metalcore record. All these songs, like, they've really been sticking with me, and I am like, just, it was when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, I need that in my vinyl collection because it's just grown on me. But those are the two sort of I bought over the last couple of weeks that have really stood out. So yeah, so the main thing I wanted to sort of talk about this part was my first couple of records. There's three I've picked in particular that kind of have significance, which is the first record I bought. Like, this is vinyl we're talking about. The first record that was given to me by my dad, who has a huge record collection as well from like way back, and then my first record store day, the one record that I was like, I need to go and get that. That's got to be one I've got to get my hands on whilst we're out doing it. So yeah, those are the ones I'm going to talk about now. Which we'll start with is the first record I was given, which was given to me by my dad when he sort of knew I wanted to start collecting records. It's one of his old records, but it is one of my favorite albums ever, Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen. This is, like I say, my favourite thing about this is it's still got the little, when he had it, it's still got the little sticker, $3.99 from HMV. Like, imagine paying that now, $3.99 for one of the best albums ever on vinyl. Be like crazy. But it is old, it is, the vinyl sleeve is stained, and like, it is not in the best condition. It wasn't in the best condition when it was given to me from like years of having it, and my dad listening to the crap out of this record because like he's the reason I like Bruce Springsteen, and I think what part of him passing on the love for Bruce Springsteen was then he gave me the Bruce Springsteen records. He also, like, this was the only one he gave me when I wanted to start collecting records, but this is the one that's significant because it's Born to Run in it. It's one of the best albums ever. If you don't love this album, I don't know what to say. Perrin and other friends I have who don't love this record. It's just some of the most perfect like rock songs ever. Like the storytelling, the like anthemic quality, the saxophone solos. How you could not love this album? Just you'd be soulless to not love this record. And I love the artwork, the iconic sort of image of Bruce with his son when they fold out with Clancy with his saxophone. Like, it's such a great photo. They just look like the coolest rock stars ever in that photo. Like, it's the best. Yeah, like, this is an album, like I said, I talked about on my top 20 of all time because it's a perfect album, essentially. It is the reason so many of my favourite bands do what they do. A band I'm going to talk about on this video in a little bit, actually, relevant to news from the past week. But yeah, that's Born to Run in it. Like, just, like, I've got a couple of, like, old records from my dad's collection, like, that he had, and like I used to listen to a lot of these before I started my own record collection anyway, and that's what got me into vinyl, was like rifling through my dad's collection and like picking out this and Boston and a lot of those kind of like your typical dad rock bands like from the 70s and 80s that my dad had on vinyl, and like that's how I got into Bruce Springsteen essentially, and actually having this record, I'm like, it's quite sentimental for me for that reason. Like, so yeah, Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run, $3.99 in HMV. Like, what a crazy thought. Now, the next record I'm going to talk about is the very first record I bought myself when I was getting into vinyl collecting, and this would have been 2013? Oh, I can't remember now. Might have been 2012. God. It's probably 2012. Time is 20. Yeah, time is a crazy illusion. But this was, I didn't even have my own working record player when I bought this. But what it is was Banquet Records, who I sort of raved about on the last thing. They would this was before the vinyl boom was kind of properly kicking off. It was starting to happen around this time, and they basically announced that Kids in Glass Houses, who are not a band that are kind of fondly looked upon by the TNM crowd. I think it's a bit harsh, like, but I know like that era of Brit rock is like kind of like the enemy, whatever. Fine. I will defend Kids in Glass Houses, and that's what I'm going to talk about. But they were doing anniversary shows for their debut album, Smart Casual, and the whole thing was banquet. This was like Fighting Cocks in Kingston, which, if you've been there, is a tiny little dingy punk venue, 150 capacity. And so I was like, oh, Kids in Glass Houses playing this album in full at that venue. If you buy it on vinyl, yeah, go on then. And here's the thing, right? This album is brilliant. I will defend all the Kids in Glass Houses albums, but this album, they were so ahead of the curve on this, because if they, like, a couple of years later, like 2012, if they were dropping this, 1975 were just doing what Kids in Glass Houses was doing on this record at a lot of points, and they became one of the biggest bands on the planet. I'm just saying that, like, Kids in Glass Houses, like, were one of the first bands to kind of do that kind of 80s pop rock thing, and it kind of did become a massive thing, kind of after the sort of buzz for Kids in Glass Houses had died down, which is a shame. But this album, bangers, like, I don't even care. Like, I can get people not liking You Me at 6, because they are the most kind of just like standard rock band, kind of like nice guys trying to do the American pop punk sound. Kids in Glass Houses, they had shitloads of personality, if you ask me. Their songs were just like really bubbly, joyous pop rock songs, but they had like tons of character, and they had that 80s influence, which did make them stick out. Again, like right down to the artwork and everything. Like, they had just a different vibe to them, which was cool. They weren't just trying to be Fall Out Boy or whatever. It's a nice sort of bright green pressing. This was when one of the areas was like, oh cool, vinyls can be obnoxious bright colours and not just black. But yeah, like, I basically just wanted to rant about how Kids in Glass Houses deserve better, because they were a cut above all of those sort of like 2010s Brit rock bands that everyone hates now. And like I said, man, you open this album, Fisticuffs, Easy Tiger, Give Me What I Want, Saturday, as an opening run. If you know those songs, you go, yeah, those are all bangers. Those all go, like, Fisticuffs has got an actual like Larry riff to it, which is not something you'd associate with Kids in Glass Houses. But they had more going on than just being bland, nice guy rock music. And it, like, genuinely, if you are like a teen person who's kind of like, oh, all those bands are the same, they're all bad, blur, like, fair enough, but give Kids in Glass Houses another go. Like, this album and In Gold Blood in particular are the two that I'm like, those albums are so much better than people give them credit for. In Gold Blood's a mental concept album, like, has saxophone and shit on it. Like, they were a really interesting creative band for that Brit rock scene, and they aren't just You Me at 6 or whatever. So yeah, shout out Kids in Glass Houses. They deserve better. And Slam Dunk, please throw enough money at them to just get them to do a reunion set already. That's a kind of yeah. That was the first record I was given and the first record I was bought. And now we're going on to the first record that on Record Store Day. My first ever time going out for Record Store Day, which was 2013, so that was like a little bit after I'd got that Kids in Glass Houses record, and I'd bought a few other records since then, but this was now like, because like I discovered Banker Records, so I was going shopping, and yeah, Record Store Day. So I went out and remember, like, made a whole day of it, because Frank Turner, again another person who is like the enemy now, but I still dig Frank Turner, and he was doing 3 sets across London, at Rough Trade in Shoreditch, Sister A Records in sort of Soho, and then Banquet Records in Kingston, doing 3 sets. And I went along to all 3 of them. But I also, there's some mates, me, my sister and mate went into Rough Trade really early to do some record shopping and then catch that set. And the record I wanted to get more than anything was Holy Diver by Dio, because what an album, like, just a heavy metal classic. Again, just like, shout out the artwork. This album has just got bangers. Like, I must confess, I'm not a huge Dio fan outside of this record. I'm a filthy casual, I guess, when it comes to Dio. But this album is untouchable, if you ask me. Like, when it opens up and shout and into Holy Diver, like, hell yeah, fist pumping, just big heavy metal. And this was like, at the time when 2013 was quite a sort of transitional time for my music taste, where I was getting into a lot of things, but I was still kind of like had that love for heavy metal in me. That's kind of gone away a little bit now, but comes back every now and then when something like captures my spirit, like when we did the Judas Priest Turbo special recently for the album club. Yeah, this is a double LP, sort of a grey splatter. It's a cool record. This the actual album is only over the first 2 LPs, and then the second LP, which then was like an interview with Ronnie James Dio, which I was just like, I listened to like once through when I first got this. I was like, that's a cool, like, interesting sort of novelty thing. So yeah, this is the second LP, which is an interview with Dio, and it was like, I guess that's the kind of like silly things you get with some record store day releases. But this was like I say, I was going out, and there was a couple other things I bought that record store day. Like, most of them I was just because I was like impulse buying stuff, because I was like, oh, that's a thing I like, that's a record that I'm gonna buy that. But this was the one that I was like, I need to get this Dio record, because like it is just one of the great heavy metal albums. So this was it, and this was what really then set, like, between getting that Kids in Glass Houses record and then this record store day was what set me off, and then was like, okay, I'm now a vinyl collector, and I've been buying them ever since. Next, Gaslight, Anthem are back. Happy days. This has been like over the last sort of 2 weeks when they've been teasing stuff, and I've been like, just announce what you're gonna do already, because I was like, I would have been fine with a handwritten anniversary tour or whatever, but I was like, come on though. What I really wanted you to just be like, yeah, we're back full time. Here's a new album. Here's a tour and all that, and we got that. And so I figured I would dig up one of my many Gaslight Anthem records, because they are one of the best bands ever. I love the band. I wasn't going to talk about 59 Sound, because I've talked about that album quite in depth. So I figured I was going to talk about Handwritten, but then I realised my sister has nicked my vinyl of that album, and she lives in Northampton, so I need to get that back off her next time I see her. But so I was like, oh, we'll go for my third choice then, which is American Slang. And I mean, just because this is my third choice, this does not mean this album is not amazing. It's the Gaslight Anthem. They're just like, their first Forerunner records, and I will stick up for Get Hurt as well, it's just one of the best runs in sort of modern rock music. Like 59 Sound of Handwritten being the sort of the high points, but American Slang, still just what a record. Like, the title track is just untouchable. They are like the coolest band. And this, I mean, like, when I talk about Bruce Springsteen being the sort of reason I love a lot of the music I love, like, the Gaslight Anthem wouldn't be about Bruce Springsteen. They are just like the modern incarnation of just being like, hey, we are going to do what Springsteen does and just make it just a little bit more punk, and that's just like perfect for me. And this album is them doing that really well. This is kind of where they start to lean more into the Springsteen-isms than on 59 Sound, and kind of dial back the punk a little bit. But it is a amazing record still. Black vinyl. This is one that, like I say, I just bought all these when they started to repress them, like when vinyl was becoming a thing, because I was like, well, it's the Gaslight Anthem. I need all these albums because they are one of the best bands ever. And so, yeah, American Slang by the Gaslight Anthem. Kind of linking on to that, I figured it'd be a good time to talk about Against Me, because I've mentioned before my love of Against Me. Talked about Transgender Dysphoria Blues and what a sort of life-changing record that was for me in terms of coming to terms with my gender identity and all of that sort of stuff. And that's what makes it the kind of the one for me for Against Me, because it is so important. But if I had to talk about some of my favourite Against Me songs, they all come on White Crosses, which for me is just the Against Me album for just hits. This and New Wave, like the one, like, I mean, New Wave, White Crosses, Transgender Dysphoria Blues is a perfect album curve. They are all 11 out of 10 records, if you ask me. They are some of the best punk records ever recorded. I've said that a lot, but like, I will stand by that with Against Me. Like, just look at, again, the opening one of this, White Crosses, I was a teenage anarchist because of the shame, suffocation, just like, and it goes on, to be fair. Like, it is a perfect record. I know some people will probably like complain about some songs in this, like Bob Dylan Dream. It's not a great song, like, fair enough. Like, Laura, I Love You, but that's when you go a little bit too far into the kind of like cheesier stuff. But the fact that they can have a song like that and this album I could still consider it to be perfect kind of speaks volumes of the strength of it. The other thing with this one is this is also the massive triple LP white crosses and black crosses set. So like if you look on the back, it's got the whole track listing for both of them. And like, let's now pull out all of the LPs. I think they are all different colours, if I believe correctly. I can't remember now. I mean, not knowing my own record collection. Or no, are they all just the pink? Is this one where they're all the pink? They're all the pink, like sort of splat ones. That's fine. But yeah, we'll pull out the LPs and just kind of be like, look at how nice they are. Yeah, it's the sort of clear with a kind of pink. Is it marble or splat? I can't remember on that. But yeah, like Against Me are one of those just sort of life-changing bands for me. This one's kind of a bit more clear with the pink splattery splattering effect on it. They just like, I mean, in sort of making me love punk music and making me come to terms with everything with my gender and everything, they really meant an awful lot to me, and like it is so amazing. And just, you know, do a new album already, please. Like, I feel like it must be coming this year because I've waited long enough. But White Crosses is just kind of like, this is an album where these songs should be being put out by sort of rock bands playing arenas. They are that big. They are that like untouchable. And Against Me are still just this kind of like academy level punk band, and it's a shame, but like for whatever reason, but they should be huge. They should have got huge off the back of this album, and it did obviously like boost their profile. This is the album that I got into Against Me on in 2010, or like, yes, it would have been 2010 when I heard it, but and I was kind of like, oh cool, Against Me, awesome. And I went back and listened to all the early stuff, and then it was then when Transgender Dysphoria Blues came out and everything with what happened, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Me liking Against Me is now going to have to just go even further, and just they became the most important band to me. But that the fact that this is, like I said, the album that I got into them on, again, makes it like quite like a sort of significant one to me, even if it's not a life-changing record in the way that Transgender Dysphoria Blues was. But yeah, Against Me, White Crosses. Last couple of albums that I'm going to kind of just rattle through now. Like, again, like, this is another one, actually. I've mentioned Outbreak a few times, but this is another one that I'm going to be catching Outbreak. But it's Your Demise, The Kids We Used to Be. This is another record that basically, this is the record that set me off on my love of hardcore. Before I'd heard this, I'd listened to a lot of metalcore, those sort of the Monster Parkway Drive, Architects, Bring Me the Horizon, a lot of that sort of stuff. But it wasn't until I saw these support Bring Me the Horizon at the garage that I was like, oh, okay, I need to check out hardcore now and actually get in on that sort of stuff. And this was the album that I run at the time, and so I listened to it and I was kind of like, cool. And then through listening to this, I then went and listened to Comeback Kid and a lot of UK hardcore stuff and Hatebreed and Terror. And this is what, like I said, this is the album that just set me off down that road to loving hardcore and defined a lot of my music taste for a lot of the 2010s going forward. For me, this is the classic modern UK hardcore album in a lot of ways. Like, say what you want about Your Demise and like all the fashion stuff and all that and where they went after this, but this album, you could not move for Your Demise merch in the wake of this album for a couple of years. It was just that big. The album is like this camo green pressing, which is pretty cool. It's like the most limited one they did for when they did this repressing a couple of years ago, and I was like straight in there and pre-ordered it before it sold out. But this, like I say, like it is the hardcore record for me. Like the title track on it is just one of my favorite songs ever. Miles Away, like MMX opening with a "You're to my eyes 2010 bitch," it just gets me properly hyped every time. I just want to start stomping about, swinging my fists. Like the memories of going to see them at the shows where like when they're playing the title track on this, and there's more people on stage than there is on the floor at this point, and everyone is like crowd surfing on stage, on top of the crowd on stage, and it's just insane. That's the sort of stuff I remember, and like they've been having like a nice little comeback run recently, just kind of doing it for fun. Again, that pissed people off because there's still like people in like UK hardcore who just get pissed off at anything Your Demise do. But I love this band. I will always love this band, and shout out this record. Last metal record for the thing before I will end on my obligatory, hey, here's another cool video game soundtrack. But thought I'd mention about the debut Malevolence album, seeing as they've got the new album coming very soon, and like from what we've heard, that album is going to be amazing. And like I've ranted about like the run this band have been on over the last year and how like their profile's increased, but for me, they have been crushing it since this album. And I also figure this is a good chance to show off my first pressing of this that they did. It's the gold one, which actually goes for like 50-60 quid now, which is a lot more than I paid for it back in the day of like 20. I can't remember. I'm so bad at remembering when things came out now. 2012 or 2013, whenever it was. Probably 2013. Might have even been 2014. Who knows? Time is an illusion. But yeah, this album, straight away, like Malevolence have been crushing it from the start. You want big, groovy, sort of metal riffs, like Pantera, like worshipping riffs, big, hefty beat downs, tons of attitude, just like tons of just like rage and anger. This album has it all. Like the A side in this particular one, you've got In the Face of Death, Condemned to Misery, and then you get that riff to Serpent's Chokehold, which is still one of my favourite opening riffs. Just that, it's so cool. Like, and Malevolence just crush it. They even, like I say, on this album had stuff like Turn to Stone, where they were showing their breadth of songwriting and like how they already were doing way more than what a lot of hardcore bands at the time were doing. And I think it's insane that it's taken until like nearly 10 years since this album for everyone else to catch up and go, oh shit, Malevolence, one of the best like bands on the whole planet. Like, is what it is, man. Like, they've been this since this album, and I'm glad people are finally catching up. But I just figured this would be a chance to talk about that. But yeah, so Malevolence, Reign of Suffering, what an album. And again, I love the artwork. They've always had the coolest artwork, Malevolence. So yeah, can't wait for that new album. And last one. So I mentioned I was going to just wrap up on a video game soundtrack because, like I said, they've been like video game soundtracks have been one of the coolest things in sort of vinyl, and this is another one that's kind of tangentially related to metal, but Elden Ring has been all the rage over the last month because it is the best game I have played in years, and the soundtrack on Elden Ring is incredible, like it is on all FromSoft RPGs. I do not have the Elden Ring soundtrack on vinyl yet because I think the only one they put out so far was stupidly expensive and sold out instantly. But what I do have is the Demon Souls remastered soundtrack. Demon Souls is kind of where the modern FromSoft RPG all began. It's the kind of the first step towards what they have essentially perfected with Elden Ring, and this is one that again you just got to look at the artwork to kind of go like they are taking video game soundtracks seriously. It's the Maiden in Black, who's one of the main characters from the game. It just looks like cool. It's so cool. It's like the sort of dark fantasy stuff that Demon Souls is about. It's double LP, sort of gold pressing, or like again, it's kind of like gold clear pressing. Really matches up with the look of it. It's the remastered soundtrack, which was where they kind of took the songs that were quite basic from the original Demon Souls and just kind of ramped up all the bells and whistles, made them more grand, more epic, which kind of made them a little bit less weird and eerie, which is one of the cool vibes of Demon Souls. But they sound incredible, and it's just a really nice sort of vinyl package that they did. And I figured, because like I say, everyone has been like raving about Elden Ring, I was like, hey, I can talk about Demon Souls being cool, because Demon Souls is great. All the FromSoft games are great, and I have this one. This is the only one I have on vinyl, but it is a cool one to have. So yeah, but like, and the songs are just kind of like your standard epic kind of boss themes that are like make you feel like you are taking on a giant like flying stingray that is shooting down like spikes at you, or various other like epic big monsters. Yeah, cool. We'll leave that there then. So that has been episode 2 of Vinyl Tap for me. I took on some, like, a couple of people mentioned me a comment feedback where I kind of rushed through everything on the records and didn't go into enough of like why I bought them and stuff like that. So I tried to kind of take that on board with this one, but hopefully people have enjoyed this, and I'll get another one of these up at some point soon in the near future. Peace out.